In Ultimate Designer, rooms can be applied to different areas, be it for multi-channels, like in our mixer example, or rules related, say for track widths and vias in an BGA. Another handy feature of these rooms is to use the query function as a filter. So let's look at how a simple check on the orientation of your components can be carried out. But before we start asking ourselves how, we should first deal with the question of why the alignment should be checked. There are various different soldering techniques used in the manufacturing process, one of which is wave soldering. If a PCB is to be successfully passed across a wave, there are always a number of conditions that must be respected. And one of these is the position of the components. When components are laid directly across the waves, shadowing can occur, whereas laying them lengthwise along the waves can lead to a short circuit at the end pads, against which a solder sieve should be inserted. While placing components, you have to be careful to face them in the right direction, so that during their passage through the wave, the solder sieve specified in the footprint is on the correct side. This check can be carried out visually, since the solder siev's position is, as a rule, clear to see. Nonetheless, the capacity to perform an additional automated check provides a bit extra certainty when creating a design. There are two areas which require some preparation setup work before orientation checks can be successfully carried out within our rooms. Area 1 is the PCB library. Footprints are available in the PCB libraries with a specific marked orientation. The marked orientation displays the original position 0 degree, 360 degree for alignment in the PCB. At the PCB. To set up an orientation query, you are going to need a room in the PCB. The room can be placed in the PCB by selecting the command Design, Rooms, Place, Rectangular Room, or Design, Rooms, Place, Polygonal Room. The position of the room to be used for checking orientations will be defined by the position of the components on the bottom layer. When a room is placed, a component group will be automatically created to include all the components found within the room. This is inserted into the room through the query in component class, class name, you see here. If you want to use a room to ensure your components are correctly aligned, a few alterations to the properties of a room are required. The full query entry would run as follows: object kind, component, and layer, bottom layer, and name like RA, and rotation between 1 and 359. Object kind, component, and layer, bottom layer indicates components on the bottom layer. Name like RA encompasses only those components beginning with the designator RA to the bottom layer, as in our example here. Rotation between 1 and 359 incorporates components that are rotated anywhere from 1 degree to 359 degrees. Next to the query field is an option to specify whether the components should be inside or outside the room. This should be set to keep objects outside. With this setup, none of the components encompassed by the query field filter will be welcome in the room. And that's how an orientation check can be carried out, marking as errors any component that aren't set to 0 degree or 360 degrees. In this way, since our room covers the entire surface area of components on the bottom layer, all the components with an RA designator, which are not at 0 or 360 degrees, will be notified as errors. And that's how an orientation check can be carried out, marking as errors any component that aren't set to 0 degree or 300